There is a particular quality to the light in the northern reaches of Ben Yehuda Street, a luminosity that speaks of proximity to water, of salt air drifting inland, of the vast Mediterranean presence that shapes everything about life on this coast. At 191A, where a new residential project is set to rise, that light will pour through windows positioned just 300 meters from the sea itself. 300 meters. It is a distance one can walk in less than 4 minutes at a leisurely pace, in barely 2 if one is eager for the water. It is close enough to hear the surf on quiet mornings, to smell the ocean when the wind shifts westward, to make the beach not an occasional destination, but a daily companion. In a city where proximity to the Mediterranean commands extraordinary premiums, this distance represents something approaching ideal, close enough for convenience, far enough to escape the immediate bustle of the beachfront promenade. The project will encompass 16 apartments across 8 floors, an intimate scale that befits the residential character of Tel Aviv's Old North neighborhood. Architect Orit Milbauer has been entrusted with the design, bringing her vision to a building that must navigate the complex requirements of the TAMA reinforcement and addition framework, a regulatory mechanism that allows for the strengthening and expansion of existing structures to meet modern seismic standards while adding new residential units. The committee decision has been approved, marking a significant milestone in the journey from concept to reality. What follows will be the detailed work of bringing a building from paper to physical form, transforming architectural renderings into lived space. The Old North, Safon Yashan in Hebrew, occupies a cherished position in the mental geography of Tel Aviv residents. This is not the flashy newness of towers rising on reclaimed land, nor the historic density of the city center with its Bauhaus landmarks and crowded streets. The Old North represents something else, a neighborhood that has matured gracefully over decades, where tree-lined streets provide shade in summer, and the pace of life slows just enough to remind residents that urban living need not be relentless. Ben Yehuda Street itself runs the length of Tel Aviv's coastal zone, evolving in character as it moves from south to north. In its southern reaches, the street carries commercial energy and tourist traffic. But here, approaching the 190s, it transitions into something quieter, more residential, more attuned to the rhythms of neighborhood life. The apartments at 191A will benefit from this positioning, connected to the urban grid, yet removed from its most intense expressions. The surrounding geography reads like a catalog of Tel Aviv's most desirable amenities. Yarkon Park lies within walking distance, that magnificent green corridor where joggers and cyclists share paths with families pushing strollers, where the river curves through landscaped grounds, where the city's collective need for nature finds its primary expression. Tel Aviv Port, the transformed harbor area that now houses restaurants, entertainment venues, and a weekly farmers market, awaits nearby, offering a destination for evening strolls and weekend outings. And Metzitzim Beach, that beloved stretch of sand popular with locals and visitors alike, presents itself as the obvious choice for those moments when nothing will do but immersion in the sea. The practical infrastructure of daily life has been thoughtfully considered in evaluating this location. The light rail, that transformative addition to Tel Aviv's transportation network, will serve residents who need to traverse the city efficiently. Major thoroughfares provide automotive access for those who prefer to drive, and for families, always a crucial consideration in Tel Aviv's competitive real estate market, kindergartens and schools populate the surrounding streets, eliminating the long commutes that can transform parenthood into an exhausting logistics exercise. The architectural vision that Milbauer Architects has brought to 191A aims for something the project description characterizes as stunning, a word that carries significant weight when applied to a building that must distinguish itself in a neighborhood where architectural quality has become expected rather than exceptional. The renderings suggest a structure that engages thoughtfully with its context, contemporary in its expression, yet respectful of the established residential scale that gives the Old North its character. The interiors, as depicted in the visualization materials, speak a language of light and openness. Large windows frame views that will vary by floor and orientation, some looking toward the nearby sea, others engaging with the urban landscape, all benefiting from the particular quality of illumination that coastal proximity provides. The spaces appear generous without being cavernous, designed for the realities of contemporary urban living, where homes must accommodate work, leisure, family life, and entertaining within carefully considered square footage. 16 apartments represent a community of manageable scale, enough neighbors to create genuine social fabric, few enough to preserve privacy and intimacy. The 8th-floor height positions the building within the established parameters of the neighborhood, neither dominating the streetscape nor disappearing within it. This is architecture that seeks integration rather than declaration, that wants to enhance its surroundings rather than overwhelm them. The TAMA framework under which this project proceeds, specifically the reinforcement and addition model, carries its own particular significance. Unlike full demolition projects that erase existing structures entirely, this approach works with what already stands, strengthening it against seismic risk, while adding new units that help address Tel Aviv's perpetual housing shortage. It is a more delicate architectural challenge in some ways, requiring sensitivity to existing conditions and careful integration of new elements with established forms. For potential residents, the appeal of 191A Ben Yehuda extends beyond its physical attributes to something more intangible, a sense of having found one's place in a city that can feel overwhelming in its density and energy. The Old North offers a version of Tel Aviv that is urban without being exhausting, connected without being chaotic, sophisticated without being pretentious. To live here is to enjoy the benefits of one of the world's most dynamic cities while maintaining access to the simpler pleasures: a walk to the beach, a morning coffee at a neighborhood cafe, the familiar faces of longtime residents who have chosen to root their lives in this particular soil. The sea, of course, dominates all considerations. 300 meters away, it performs its eternal dance of waves and light, its moods shifting with the weather and the seasons, its presence both backdrop and protagonist in the daily life of coastal Tel Aviv. Those who secure apartments at 191A will find themselves in continuous dialogue with this presence, glimpsing blue horizon from upper floors, feeling the salt-tinged air through open windows, orienting their daily routines around a body of water that has drawn humans to its shores since time beyond memory. Morning might begin with a swim at Metzitzim Beach, that particular pleasure of entering the Mediterranean before the heat of the day builds, when the water is cool and the sand still holds the night's freshness. The walk home would take minutes, the salt drying on skin as the neighborhood comes to life around you. Evening might end with a stroll along the promenade, watching the sun descend into the sea in that daily spectacle that Tel Aviv residents never quite take for granted, no matter how many times they witness it. Between these aquatic bookends, the city offers its endless diversions, its restaurants and galleries, its theaters and parks, its markets and boutiques. But always, the sea remains, constant and calling, 300 meters from the front door. The committee has approved the decision. The architect has completed her vision. The framework of permits and plans stands ready to support construction. What remains is the physical work of building, the pouring of foundations, the raising of floors, the installation of systems and finishes that will transform concept into dwelling. 16 apartments, 8 floors, 300 meters from the Mediterranean. In Tel Aviv's Old North, where quality and location converge in one of the city's most desirable neighborhoods, 191A Ben Yehuda prepares to take its place among the addresses that define what it means to live well in this impossible, irresistible city by the sea.